John, these students in Melbourne striking next week in support of Palestine. I have to say most of them couldn't even find Israel on a map, but there they are. They'll all be out there. This looks to me like yet another recruitment drive from the Greens, and I suspect the only thing they're going to learn at these protests is how to be anti-Semitic.
That's right, Peter. These are children being used as pawns by adults. Full credit to the Federal Labor Education Minister, Jacinta Allan, who today said in Parliament it should be uncontroversial that children should be in school. He was supported by Sarah Henderson, the Liberal Shadow Education Minister. But here in Victoria, and Peter Dutton mentioned this in your program earlier today, Jacinta Allan has refused to condemn the protests. She said there's nothing that can be done. She said this is about democracy. Well, it's not about democracy when you recruit young people to sprout vile anti-Semitic slurs, and sadly, that is most likely what's going to happen at these protests, and the Victorian government has been nowhere to be seen on this.
I tell you, Nick Cater, this is the model that the left has used so comprehensively on climate change. They indoctrinate, they mobilise, they recruit, and then it follows through until these kids are eventually voters. They've done it on this issue and they're going to keep doing it. And of course, we saw it with the Aboriginal issue for many years. It didn't work for them on the issue of the referendum recently. I mean, that was overwhelmingly rejected, but they're not helped by the media. And you've picked up how the BBC sold Australia overseas, haven't you?
Yeah, the BBC ran a programme recently supposedly explaining what had happened in the Voice referendum, but instead of talking to perhaps some of the 9.4 million people who voted no, they brought on 4 experts who were all sort of not at all sympathetic with the no case. This is what happens, and as a result of that, you get an entirely distorted picture of the real arguments, of the truth. And I think this is what young people unfortunately suffer because you don't get you cannot understand the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in all its complexity and nuance simply by watching something on TikTok. And yet that's how most of these people get their news. So I think it's much better they should be in school, perhaps learning their history, learning more about the Holocaust, that defining event of the 20th century, before they start jumping to conclusions and backing the wrong side.